Welcome to Okayama. Welcome to the season finale for Ferrari Challenge Japan. Somehow, we're already here at the final juncture, the final set of points available to our drivers across 4 races this weekend. We're splitting the grid in 2, and first up, we have the Ferrari Challengers top 3 classes: Trofeo Pirelli Am, and Coppa Shell, taking to the circuit together. In about 2 hours' time, we'll be live with more Ferrari Challenge action for the Coppa Shell Am and 488 divisions. But for now, the fastest 3 classes sharing the track together for the first time in series history. The grid is separated in 2. As we can see, the cars are already down there on the grid, and that is a focused looking Tadao Uematsu on the front row of the grid. Focused for many reasons, not just because he's the pole sitter, but any false move this weekend may well take him out of championship contention, because that man, Sotomuto, in the number 88 car from M Auto Italia, he has been peerless this season in terms of performance. Lest we forget, he was not with us for the first round at Suzuka on the Japanese Grand Prix support bill, and yet he still comes into today's race as the championship leader. And there's a little extra twist in the tail. The board there declaring the race wet. I'm not sure that the eyeball test on those on that tarmac would agree with that, concur with the wet conditions, but perhaps we have had a little bit of precipitation. Have seen some umbrellas down there, and we'll have to keep an eye on that. Looks to me like the circuit is closer to dry than wet, but there is a little bit of precipitation down there. You see there Motohiko Isosaki on row 2 of the grid as well. He's going to be looking for a significantly improved performance here today. He didn't really have the car underneath him, it felt like, across both of our rounds at Fuji. We had a double up of visits to Fuji, and he did get 2 podiums on the first trip. However, it was not such a successful time last time out. The 2 races at Fuji in July, only yielding a combined 12 points from a potential 34. Here's a look then at the Okayama circuit. From above, this is a circuit with quite a lot of elevation change to it. You're climbing uphill really from turn 2 through to turn 4 there on your map, and then continuing to rise, then dip down on the long run to turn 5, which will be one of the best overtaking opportunities. It is quite a tight circuit. In places it's quite narrow. Certainly it is very technical. There's a lot of places that can catch you out. There's a lot of corners that kind of beg you almost to take a couple of extra kilometers of an hour at the apex, but that can cost you on the corner exits where there's not much room for error with those gravel traps waiting in the wings. In the championships then, the 3 championships represented on this grid, Sotomuto leads by 7 points over Tadao Uematsu. Those are our 2 drivers on the front row of the grid. That is in the Trofeo Pirelli standings. 34 points available for the remainder of the weekend. In fact, now 33, because Tadao Uematsu has already claimed the pole position point for today's race. So there will be 16 points available today now in the race through fastest lap, and indeed through the race win, which is worth 15 points. Sotomuto will need a good race here to try and win the championship on the Saturday. You would also need Tadao Uematsu to have quite a poor race. If they finish 1-2 in either configuration, the race will continue on into Sunday for the championship in Trofeo Pirelli. The same is true of Trofeo Pirelli Am as well, where Motohiko Isosaki is our points leader. He's 7 points clear of Cold Max, who will be on a mission this weekend, and Kanji Agura also in contention, only 13 points back from the championship lead, and that's despite missing the Autopolis round completely. Shimoyama and Shirasaki also still mathematically in contention in Pirelli Am. And then latterly, of the three classes that we have on circuit for this first of two races today on Saturday, the most closely run, actually, championship battle, Ryotaro Saito, 4 points clear of Phil Kim in Coppa Shell. Yaneda is also there. Masaru Yaneda, 10 points off the championship lead. As we get a look here at the grid, Uematsu and Sotomuto alongside each other. Isosaki and Anna Inotsume, welcome back, Anna. Nobuhiro Imada and Norikazu Shibata on row 3. Kanji Agura and Yamatatsu are next. Then it's Cold Max from 9th alongside Tsutomu Shimoyama. Shirasaki and Yaneda on row 6. Iwatashi and Phil Kim rounding out this grid. We welcome back, as we said there, Anna Inotsume. Anna Inotsume, who has previously been a touring car champion here in Japan, was a guest driver with us last year as well, and she was on the grid, of course, for the season opener at Suzuka. And great to see Anna Inotsume back with us in the white and gold machine there on the second row of the grid. Motohiko Isosaki in his distinctive green and red colours just alongside her when we get this race underway in the next few moments. You see there the Ferrari 296 GTB pace car pulling away. We approach the final sector of the lap now. Just to very briefly touch on that Coppa Shell battle again. Saito 4 clear, Yaneda 10 off the lead behind Phil Kim, who's in second and 4 points back. That's going to be very interesting as well, especially because Ryotaro Saito, of course, upgraded from Coppa Shell Am earlier in the year. They're getting into 2x2 formation. This is the finale weekend, and the time for racing is now. So here we go, 2x2 formation. It will be Tadao Uematsu on the front row to the inside line. Can Sotomuto, the championship leader, make it work all the way around the outside into the first corners? Or collision, contact between them. Sotomuto into the gravel trap at turn 1. That is a huge development. And that car is unlikely to go any further. Tadao Uematsu and Sotomuto have collided in the very earliest stages of our championship decider weekend. It appears that Tadao Uematsu is fine in terms of his car. Doesn't look like he's got any significant damage. We saw there that was Nobuhiro Imada pulling out of a move, so safety car is out. But Sotomuto, the championship leader at turn 1 on lap 1, is into the gravel trap definitively. You see there a wing mirror, I think, from Uematsu's car. But Sotomuto's position coming into today as championship favourite took the slightest of hits with Tadao Uematsu claiming pole position. That will have narrowed the gap in the championship to 6 points in favour of Muto. But with his car now in the gravel, this changes everything. What a drama that was to start the race off. Let's get a look back at it again. As Sotomuto was trying to make it work around the outside, cut in, and really, that can only be looked at one way. Tadao Uematsu was drifting out wide there. I think that was more on him perhaps than Sota, but perhaps it was more of a meeting in the middle, because Muto was also trying to go in as far to the inside as he could while being on the outside there of Uematsu. But again, every angle we see, that's the angle we saw the incident in originally. And no, I think ultimately Tadao Uematsu was the one that made the error there. Sotomuto had every right to try and hang around the outside. They've made contact. And ultimately, Sotomuto's race has been compromised to a permanent end in this first race of the day here in Ferrari Challenge Japan. And Tadao Uematsu now has the opportunity to scoop up some championship points and potentially move into the championship lead. But he's going to have Nobuhiro Imada there right with him. And what about that start for Norikazu Shibata? He's gone up to third position, gaining 3 places on the first lap of the race. That is a very strong start. He's come out of the block swinging. The driver who sits a distant 5th in the standings, not really a factor for Coppa Shell Championship honours. Just about mathematically still in consideration, but he'd need the rest of the class really to fall by the wayside to have any hope of a championship. So Shibata running for pride and good form and good results here, running 3rd overall in front of everyone in Trofeo Pirelli Am. Motohiko Isosaki, it has a wing mirror missing. I think that might have been his wing mirror actually there with Sotomuto's. There was some secondary contact further back in the field as well, and Motohiko Isosaki has dropped down the order a little bit. In many ways, that was the story of his Fuji as well. His qualifying performances were pretty solid. But the races just never really came together. Safety car conditions then. As you can see, Imada, Shibata, Yamatatsu and Igura have all profited immensely in this first lap of the race. Yamatatsu, worth noting his situation, the championship, is effectively the same as Shibata. He's the leader in Trofeo Pirelli Am, but he's not a factor in the Pirelli Am standings particularly. Kanji Igura, who runs 5th overall and 2nd in Trofeo Pirelli Am, he is certainly still a factor. He's 13 points back from Motohiko Isosaki, although it will be 14 points with the qualifying in consideration. So 14 points between Yagura and Isosaki, and they're running 2nd and 3rd in class, which effectively means that they will only lose, or there will only be a gain of 2 points in favour of Yagura. 12 for Yagura, 10 for Isosaki as they stand right now. Looks like the lights may have just gone out on the safety car, so we saw Sotomuto, I was going to say we saw him getting pulled behind the wall, but here he is on the circuit, although with the suspension damage that seems to be evident there with how the car is tracking and towing, I don't think he's going to make it all the way around. If he does, it's going to be at a much reduced speed. Safety car lights are on, so we're not going to go back to green this time by. If you're just joining Ferrari Challenge Japan for the first time, a quick note on the classes I've been discussing. Trofeo Pirelli for usually our front runners, although it doesn't always pan out that way. It is the class with the red window banners, the red windscreen banners on their cars. So you see Tadao Uematsu there with his red banner. Theoretically, the next class down in terms of rank is Trofeo Pirelli AM. Those are the cars with white windscreen banners. However, as you can see, there's a yellow banner in third place. That's our Coppa Shell leader, Shibata. And Coppa Shell is supposed to be kind of the creme de la creme among our more casual racers, those who maybe have a bit less experience, those who come at this from a purely, almost leisurely point of view. No less competitive, of course, but they're aware of it being a hobby. However, a lot of times this year, we've seen the Coppa Shell drivers every bit as fast as Trofeo Pirelli AM. It is really quite fine margins between all of these three classes. We've seen Pirelli AM and Coppa Shell drivers both on the overall top three at various points. You see Anna Inotsume back there in 8th place as well. She's lost position, so as we go back to racing this time by, I would suggest that Inotsume is going to be one to watch. Now, Sotomuto is not only still on track, but he is going at a fair lick of pace. Now, when he was coming out of the gravel there, I thought the car was crabbing. However, it does appear that it's running at speed, so Sotomuto might not be out of this one. He is, however, going to be well over a lap down. So unfortunately, Muto, regardless, is going to be not a particular factor here. We're back to racing conditions, and it is Tadao Uematsu in the race lead. Nobuhiro Imada is going to be his big thorn in the side, I suspect, going forward in this race. Shibata in third position. He holds off Yamatatsu, the Trofeo Pirelli AM leader, and Motoko Isosaki only just now crossing the line in 13th place. Did he make a visit to pit lane, I wonder, because that doesn't seem to track with where he was previously. Of course, he was there right behind Kanji Agura, and that's a big swing again in the championship standings if Isosaki is the last of the finishers in Trofeo Pirelli AM. He currently runs 6th in class, which would only net him 4 championship points versus 12 for Kanji Agura. That would bring Yagura right back into consideration. Meanwhile, Nobuhiro Imada keeping Tadao Uematsu honest on this first lap, this first return lap to green flag action. Imada, of course, has had a bit of an up and down season. He has had some issues. He's also had some moments of glory so far this year. Managed to win at Fuji in June. His car won at Autopolis, albeit with Tosai Moriyama at the wheel. Here's Anna Inotsume on the back of Satomo Shibayama. This is for 6th overall. Inotsume having a look to the inside. Shibayama making sure that inside line was covered off as Sotomuto brings it back into pit lane. I had wondered if he was perhaps considering making a bid for that fastest lap point. However, into the pits he comes. I think that might be an end to play for Sotomuto in the 88. What a shame for Sotomuto, the esports racing maestro. Very, very strong, highest level sim racer who's been increasingly strong as well in his opportunities in real-life motorsport. And since joining Ferrari Challenge Japan at Autopolis, he's been on such a run in the championship with 4 victories to his name from 6 races. Unfortunately, it's not going to be 5 from 7. We see the number 3 of Inotsume still offering scrutiny to Satomu Shimoyama, but this battle for 6th is still unresolved. Can Inotsume take advantage of a good run up the hill here to turn 4? Has the inside later on the brakes. Fairly textbook stuff there from Anna Inotsume. Meanwhile, you see there Nobuhiro Imada giving chase to Tadao Uematsu. Uematsu, who'll be firmly looking at this full haul of points and liking what he sees. It would bring him into the championship lead as it stands. Tadao Uematsu. Would swing the pendulum of the championship quite firmly in his favour, with 6 points back coming in, a full haul of 15 versus nothing for Sotomuto. It would give Tadao Uematsu a 9-point lead in the championship. Meanwhile, we look back here to Phil Kim, all the way down in 12th position at the moment, and running behind Masafumi Iwatashi. Of course, we spoke about Ryotaro Saito, but he didn't take the start of this race. And he was expected, I believe, to be on the grid this weekend. In fact, no. So Ryotaro Saito, my apologies, was not on the entry list for today. So even though he was the championship leader with points inherited and taken up from Coppa Shell where he started the year, he is the points leader in Coppa Shell, but he's not going to be the points leader for much longer at all. And that makes the real championship battle between Phil Kim, who we see there behind Hiwatashi in the previous shot, and Masaru Yoneda, who runs second in class. There's 6 points between Phil Kim and Yoneda in Phil Kim's favour. I'm not particularly sure that Phil Kim has the pace to move up and try and get to Yoneda in this race, so he is going to have a drop of 4 points. It's going to be 2 between them. If we were to wave the checkered flag, it'd be 2 between them in Coppa Shell. Phil Kim and Masaru Yoneda. Ryotaro Saito not here this weekend. There is the battle for 3rd overall. Norikazu Shibata, the leader among the Coppa Shell runners, in 3rd overall. Yamatatsu 4th. Kanji Ogura in 5th place. You've got the Coppa Shell leader with the Trofeo Pirelli Am battle for the lead just behind him. Again, Yamatatsu kind of on his own island in the championship consideration, won't be able to swing the title in his favour in Pirelli Am. Meanwhile, Kanji Agura with Motohiko Isozaki still down there in 13th position. And 6th in Pirelli Am. That is a big swing. Isozaki was 13 points clear of Kanji Agura coming into this race, and that is going to shrink by 6 points as it stands. In fact, 8 points as it stands. And of course, Cold Max, who runs second in the championship, just 7 back from Isozaki. He's going to profit as well, although not as much, because he's still 4th in class at the moment behind Tsutomu Shimoyama. So Tadao Uematsu, as we approach the final third of this race, is still holding off Nobuhiro Imada in 2nd place. Then we've got this battle going on. Norikazu Shibata making his car as wide as possible. Yamatatsu and Kanji Agura on his tail. They're fighting for 3rd overall. They're not fighting for class honours. With the Coppa Shell leader ahead of the Trofeo Pirelli leader. Of course, Kanji Agura is fighting for class honours, the 3rd car in that battle, because he wants to get past Yamatatsu and score a full haul of points in Pirelli Am. Another consideration is the fact that Anna Inotsume, just going through shot there, is closing in on that 3-car battle. I think it might be 4-car before too long. You see there Yasutaka Shirasaki in the number 19 car, running 10th overall there behind Masaru Yaneda. 5th in the Trofeo Pirelli Am class at the moment. This 3-car train being led by Cold Max in the, let's say, traditional Ferrari GT colours with the tricolore and the red backing. Cold Max is away off of Shimoyama, who's about 3-4 seconds up the road there. He's under immense pressure from Masaru Yaneda in the green and black machine. However, Yaneda, of course, a Coppa Shell runner, so not going to take any points away here from Cold Max. But Cold Max will be aware that Isozaki is behind him on the road, and aware that if he could catch up to Shimoyama, it would serve him in good stead for the championship battle going into Sunday. But right now, it's not going to happen. What is going to happen, though, is all of the championships as it stands are going to tighten up going into Sunday. Uematsu is going to be the new championship leader in Trofeo Pirelli as things stand. We'll actually have a slightly bigger lead than Sotomuto had going into today's race. As we get a look back here at Anna Inotsume, making her move down at turn 4. Very impressive driving from the experienced Inotsume. But both Pirelli Am and Coppa Shell are going to close up. Motohiko Isozaki is going to lose a big chunk of his 7-point lead to Cold Max, and Kanji Agura is also going to leapfrog up the standings. I think they'll be covered by about a half-dozen points going into the season finale, which is going to be a very, very small margin for error, with 17 points on the table for Sunday. Speaking of small margins for error, Tadao Uematsu has had the number 4 of Nobuhiro Imada right there with him since this race restarted after the safety car. for Imada, who had quite a disrupted 2024 season with the previous car, the Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo, came into 2025 with the excitement that was being felt across the paddock with the arrival of the 296 Challenge car, was, I think, quite optimistic on his chances, but had an early DNF at Suzuka, another DNF last time at Fuji. The championship not really on for him at this stage. So we see there Phil Kim allowing Motohiko Isozaki through. Phil Kim was on the offensive for Coppa Shell podium honours there against Masafumi Iwatashi, and I think what he's done there is he's set Isozaki up, or he's rather set Isozaki on to Iwatashi to see if it profits him. Recognised that Motohiko was closing in. Of course, these overtakes that he's making up against the Coppa Shell drivers will do nothing for his point score within Trofeo Pirelli and Motohiko Isozaki, but he's picking away at the Coppa Shell drivers now. Uematsu and Imada running 1-2 with 6.5 minutes plus 1 lap left to go. Imada has been there or thereabouts, but we've not seen any real fluctuation. They've just been running in tandem like this within a second of each other throughout the race. What we've not seen is Imada really make an attempt. Is he waiting in the wings? Is he biding his time, saving a little bit of Pirelli P0 rubber for a late lunge, a late move, a late offensive front? We watch Motohiko Isozaki, who has gotten past Phil Kim, is now on the coattails of Masafumi Iwatashi. Hasn't quite found his way by just yet. A little look to the inside there for third overall. That was Yamatatsu having a speculative look to the inside of Norikazu Shibata. And that car, that battle for third overall has indeed become 4 strong, because Anna Inotsume is on the back of Kanji Agura. This battle for third now encompasses 4 drivers across 3 classes here in Ferrari Challenge Japan. All 3 of our classes on this grid represented in this battle, with Inotsume, the recovering Trofeo Pirelli driver. After dropping places in the skirmish on the first lap, she is trying to get back into the top 5. We've got that lead battle in Pirelli Am still going on between Yamatatsu and Yagura. But Norikazu Shibata, the Coppa Shell driver, continuing what has been something of a season-long tradition of Coppa Shell drivers punching above their perceived weight. Has taken 2 class wins earlier in the season, but that's while he was still a Coppa Shell AM driver. Norikazu Shibata was moved up into the full-fat Coppa Shell class following Autopolis. Meanwhile, we get a look back at Motohiko Isozaki. He has moved up another position. Very well executed there into turn 5, perhaps the most obvious overtaking opportunity on the lap, with that long straight leading in. Oh, and we've had a collision! Kanji Agura, Anna Inotsume, and Yamatatsu all involved. Looking at how that immediately looked post-incident, I think Yagura and Yamatatsu found each other at the apex. Let's have a look. That's exactly right. Yep, Yagura to the inside line and tags Yamatatsu. And that massively changes the complexion of Trofeo Pirelli Am, with Kanji Agura's car wounded. Kanji Agura, who was going to be profiting in a big way in the championship standings, is now with a wounded car. I'm guessing it won't be long before we see a safety car out, because that car is going nowhere. Meanwhile, Anna Inotsume has at a net profit, moved up to 5th place. Shibata and Shimoyama now running 3rd and 4th. Shimoyama is now your Trofeo Pirelli AM leader. Looks like the throttle has come up there on those two cars. Yes, safety car. Safety car is out as expected as Uematsu and Imada pass the stricken 51 of Kanji Agura, but Norikazu Shibata avoided all of that. Very well done. Just ahead in 3rd place overall of that collision. Tsutomu Shimoyama, though, is the one that's picked up the bones after the top two in Pirelli AM make contact. Tsutomu Shimoyama has sidestepped all of that and said, okay, don't mind if I do, and move forward into the Trofeo Pirelli AM lead. Cold Max then will now score points for 2nd in class, so he'll score 12, while Motohiko Isosaki moving up to 5th in class. He will score 6 points. So Cold Max, who came in to this race came into this weekend, I should say, with a 7-point deficit, that increased to 8 as Motohiko Isosaki got the class pole today. And it will now be down to 2 points going into our season finale tomorrow here at Okayama if they finish as they stand now, which is what one would expect to happen. This should be the penultimate lap of the race now that we're running under safety car. The clock will tick down to 0 on this lap, and then it'll be that +1 lap around behind the safety car. Unless they do a record-setting job of clearing Kanji Agura's car, and with that suspension damage that we could see from the collision, that's not likely. So I think we are going to see this race end under safety car conditions. But as it stands then, with Tadao Uematsu in the lead, he will move into the championship lead at the expense of Sotomuto. In Trofeo Pirelli AM, Motohiko Isosaki is set to retain his championship lead, but with 5th overall in the standings, and his closest competition, Cold Max, in 2nd place. That will shrink down to just 2 points. And in Coppa Shell, with the absence of Ryotaro Saito for this weekend, it will be Phil Kim that inherits the championship lead, albeit Masaru Yaneda, as it stands, will only be 4 points back going into Sunday. So clock has hit 0. We are certainly not going back to full speed this time by. Of course, the other consideration will be fastest lap points as well. If I'm not mistaken, Uematsu has the fastest lap in Trofeo Pirelli, so that will be another tick against his column. Another blow for Sotomuto's chances as he sits in the pit lane with a damaged car after that first lap collision between Uematsu and Muto. There is a slight consideration that I feel I must acknowledge as well, though, with Uematsu, that typically avoidable contact is quite harshly penalised post-race in Ferrari Challenge Japan. I think we've seen a good number of 30-second penalties handed down. Now, first corner, sometimes there's a little bit more leniency there with the expected shenanigans of a first turn, first lap, but I dare suggest that if it does go before the stewards, Uematsu is going to have a hard case to fight with that collision between himself and Sotomuto. So we'll call it as we see it for now. Uematsu is set for a full haul of points in Trofeo Pirelli, but I'm not convinced that will translate to the final results. We do often see the penalties applied in the minutes following a race, and we'll have to keep an eye on that, whether Nobuhiro Imada gets bumped up to a win here. Not the circumstances he would like, of course, if he does. I just wonder if Tadao Uematsu is in some danger of a judgment going against him. For what it's worth, we haven't really spoken of Nobuhiro Imada in relation to a championship, and that is because he is outside of mathematical contention coming into this weekend. So Imada winning won't have any bearing on the championship. If there were to be a penalty to Uematsu, it would simply soften the blow for Sotomuto if Tadao Uematsu is judged to be at fault for their collision at turn 1. Norikazu Shibata is going to be pretty thrilled, I think, with third overall in today's race. Twice a class winner earlier in the year in Coppa Am before being moved up, and now an overall podium place, as well as his first Coppa Shell win. That's going to be a big deal for Norikazu Shibata. The safety car has pulled out then into the pit lane, and they will cross the line under safety car conditions to conclude this race. And Tadao Uematsu receives the flag first, and provisionally with it 15 points in the championship. You saw Norikazu Shibata there really soaking in the moment for third overall. That's great to see. A very happy driver. Tsutomu Shimoyama with the Trofeo Pirelli Am win there ahead of Anna Inotsume. Cold Max with second in class. He will shrink that gap down to Motohiko Isozaki. As I said, it will be 2 points there in that championship, per my reckoning. But no matter how close any of the standings are, no matter how tantalizing Sunday becomes after a glancing blow with a calculator, the big headline today is going to be Sotomuto's race and its early conclusion. Muto, who came in 7 points clear in the Trofeo Pirelli Championship despite missing Suzuka, wasn't present for the season opener, landed on his feet at Autopolis in his first racing appearance in Ferrari Challenge Japan. Seemed like the hot favourite coming into this championship finale weekend, but the winds of change, with a little assist from Tadao Uematsu's front fender, have changed that complexion completely. And Uematsu, with a full quota of points from this race, will be our championship leader provisionally. But again, we're keeping an eye on whether that changes given his role in the collision at turn 1. Tsutomu Shimoyama, a Trofeo Pirelli Am winner. Is that his first of the season? I believe it was his first of the season in Trofeo Pirelli Am, yes, but of course he was also moved up from Coppa Shell, where he previously resided. He was moved up after winning 2 races at Fuji in the first of 2 visits to Fuji. He won both races in Coppa Shell and was also overall top 3 in both races. So this will be Shimoyama's first win as part of Trofeo Pirelli Am. he was absent for Autopolis as well, which is why he's not really in championship consideration. If you do get moved up a class here, you do keep your points from the previous class. Nobuhiro Imada, with that graphic confirming it, is now your winner. So there has been, as one somewhat anticipated, a penalty handed down. And that penalty has changed the complexion of the championship again. Tadao Uematsu judged at fault for that collision with Sotomuto, and so Nobuhiro Imada, your winner. Meanwhile, Norukazu Shibata with third position on the road and the win in Coppa Shell. You can hear and see the delight. Not the first time we've seen some partying going down there with the Noric Racing team. Means a lot to him. The other thing that, of course, will be changed by this result is the Coppa dealer standings. The standings for the various dealerships represented. M Auto Italia were on top of those standings on 127 points. With Rosso Scuderia's Nobuhiro Imada winning the race, they might move up a little bit from 5th in the standings on 102, but I think potentially Corne Shiba, who were 2 back on 125 from M Auto Italia in the Coppa dealer standings, I believe Shiba will have moved up as well. M Auto Italia, of course, the dealership represented by Sotomuto, and that 88 car. There's Ane Notsume. You can see the cooling fan there being wielded by a team member. You can also see the crew here down on the ground making sure the drivers know they're wanted up on the podium. It'll be a few minutes, I think, before we see anyone walking out onto the rostrum here at Okayama. As several of my commentary colleagues say, herding cats. So then, some replays of that race. And there was the first drama. Sotomuto being tagged by Uematsu. Our championship leader ending his race in the gravel. Isosaki falling back as well after getting tangled with Kanji Agura. Also throwing away, quite frankly, second in Trofeo Pirelli Am in that collision with Yamatatsu. But Nobuhiro Imada, with an inherited win courtesy of a Tadao Uematsu podium. Oh, sorry, of a Tadao Uematsu penalty. Nobuhiro Imada with that inherited win, he was certainly very happy. So then, as we hopefully start to get drivers heading upstairs where they need to go, we are preparing for the celebrations up there, overlooking the pit lane on the podium. I think it'll be a couple of minutes, but we'll be ready soon with some presentations. So then, let's hope we've pushed out the graphic saying there'll be a podium. Let's see how long it will be until that becomes reality. It's sometimes a little bit unpredictable. It depends on various factors, including where the podium physically is, how eager everyone is to receive their trophies. And hear the local announcer in the background talking to the fans. You see there, Yudai Uchida walking the pits as well. The driver coach to Liang Chenyu, who we'll see out in the Coppa Am race later on in just over an hour's time, actually. We'll be back with more racing here in Ferrari Challenge Japan. Coppa Am along with the 488 Challenge Evo class. They have their own race, and that is coming up very shortly here at Okayama. A double header each day this weekend, which is just the latest sign of the strength of Ferrari Challenge Japan. We have 26 cars across both grids this weekend. But you may remember Fuji, we had 35 cars, and it's getting to the stage where with one grid we don't actually have room for everybody who's interested to take part in Ferrari Challenge Japan on a regular basis. So it seems like going forward, 2 grids might well be the plan. Much like all of the Ferrari Challenge categories, there's been a significant uplift with the emergence of the Ferrari 296 Challenge. That's certainly been the case in the UK, where we've got our biggest consistent grids in that series as fairly short history. Of course, Ferrari Challenge Japan kind of picked up the baton from the previous Asia-Pacific series. But the interest in Ferrari Challenge here in Asia, in Japan specifically, has certainly been on the upward tick, and 2025 has been the best year yet for Ferrari Challenge Japan. Sounds like we may be about to welcome some drivers onto the podium. Traditionally, it's Trofeo Pirelli up first, as that usually features our overall winner. And that is Tadao Uematsu, demoted to third, behind Abe Inotsume, and of course your winner, Nobuhiro Imada. But he will still score 10 points, and he will still be our leader in the championship. However, the margin will be, I make it 3 points in favor of Uematsu up against Sotomuto. So that championship battle at the front of the field tomorrow in Trofeo Pirelli is going to be decided by the finest of margins.
それでは3位からお渡しいただきましょう。3位は植松忠夫選手。おめでとうございます。そして第2位は猪爪杏奈選手。
Uematsu receives his third place trophy. Anna Inotsume with second place in class. Difficult race for her. She'll be hoping to have a cleaner first lap and not get caught up in anything to try and show what she can do and maybe challenge for a win tomorrow. But for today, Rossa Scuderia's Nobuhiro Imada on the top step of the podium in Trofeo Pirelli. The dealer trophy being handed over as well. There is usually a Pirelli award. Well, Imada, I believe, will receive a second trophy here. Indeed, here we are. Plenty of silverware to be had when you win in Ferrari Challenge Japan.
それではフォトセッションに参りたいと思います。プレゼンターの方、そしてディーラー代表の方もご一緒にお入りいただいて、フォトセッションを行ってまいります。それではまずは正面のですね、応援団の皆さん、そしてフォトグラファーの皆さんに向かって、
Get the pictures taken. Drivers commemorating their moments. I was going to say in the sun, but it's more a light cloud overhead today. The trophy is held aloft. Nobuhiro Imada with a second win of the season. A strong finish to the year. Will 2026 be the year where Imada really starts to challenge for a title? He's been Second banana traditionally, of course, to Yuda Uchida, who's not back this year in a race seat at the very least. But we'll see if Amada can launch a bid in 2026. For now, though, he's ending 2025 on a high. See what he can do tomorrow, but for Saturday, he sprays the champagne on the top step. And Inotsume never actually got the cork out of the bottle. Had to go defensive and just run away, but finally gets the champagne open. Always fun to see these celebrations, these scenes on the podium. Nobuhiro Amada really soaking it in up there on the top step. Of course, next up it will be the Pirelli AM podium. Or at least that's traditionally the way round it goes. Of course, Coppa Shell third overall for Shibata, the winner in Coppa Shell, but traditionally we stick with the plan, as it were. So I think it will be Pirelli AM up next. All three championships then on this grid, this version of the grid, will be going into Sunday. No championships decided in this race. There's Cold Max to the second step of the Pirelli AM podium. And Tsutomu Shimeyama climbs up to the top step. Shimeyama, who again, not really a factor in championship considerations here, but all the same, a win for him, his first win in the Pirelli AM division. Cold Max, meanwhile, though, closing in on Motohiko Isosaki, and that is a big deal going forward. The great and good of Ferrari here to celebrate along with our drivers. Yasutaka Shirasaki receiving the third place trophy there. Cold Max with that second place, and Tsutomu Shimeyama with the P1 trophy in Pirelli AM. He too, I believe, will get a Pirelli award in addition. Of course, the big race is coming up in a moment, and that is the race to get the cork out of the bottle. And must be said that Cold Max is a true ace when it comes to that. Always the first. Tsutomu Shimeyama with his trophies, the pictures now. As the Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers show their prizes for a very good race, and certainly not the top two would have expected when Yamatatsu was leading Kanji Yagura, but that collision between Yamatatsu and Yagura really changed the face of the Pirelli AM race. And with it, unfortunately, with that collision and Kanji Yagura now, I think he'll get points for sixth because he did several laps, but unfortunately, he will be mathematically out of the championship battle. Celebrations a la champagne once again. Oh dear, Cold Max really got really took that to the face, unfortunately. Tsutomu Shimeyama doesn't miss. Yasutaka Shirasaki, I think, got the worst of that as well. It seems like Shimeyama strategically aiming for the eyes going into Sunday's race. I am, of course, being profoundly sarcastic. Certainly not any intention, but Always fun to see them celebrating after the race. Of course, Coppa still to come with their podium as well here.
Congratulations 第2位はカーナンバー124番コーンズ大阪米田勝選手おめでとうございますそしてコッパシリクラスレース1優勝はカーナンバー181番コーンズ大阪柴田
Podium going on here.
選手おめでとうございます
Here's Norikazu Shibata. Love to see him on the podium, always particularly jolly.
コッパディーラー賞が授与されますディーラー代表の方は3位表彰台のお隣にお立ちください
And there's his dealer representative up onto the podium. Of course,
それではコッパシェルクラスのプレゼンターご紹介させていただきます。フェラーリジャパンモータースポーツダイレクター
Phil Kim
佐藤達也様より
on
トロフ
the
ィーの
third
授与を
step
お願いいたし
of
ま
the
す。
podium.
それでは3位の選手からお渡しいただ
Masari
きましょう。
Yaneda on the
第
second.
3位ピルキム選手しっかりとこのレースを
Here's
走
the
ってポイントを獲得し
presentation
ました お
to
めでとうござ
Phil
います
Kim, who
そして第
will
2位米田勝選手おめでとうございます。
inherit the championship lead
そ
with
して見事
Ryotaro
優
Saito
勝
not present.
柴田紀勝選手おめでとう
That man
ございます。
in second on the podium, Masari Yaneda, will only be 4 behind going into Sunday here. So this championship also all to play for. Norikazu Shibata can't do anything to win the championship, but he's certainly ending the year with one of his strongest performances to date.
では正面の方に向かってトロフィーを高々と掲げてください。おめでとうございます。
Shibata holds his trophy aloft. Phil Kim then will be our new championship leader with Saito absent. Can he hold off Masari Yaneda on Sunday? They will again race separately from the Coppa Am and 488 divisions, which will be having their Saturday race in almost exactly an hour's time. The final time for this race, the champagne is sprayed. And Norikazu Shibata, he was a winner earlier in the year in Coppa Am. At the top of the podium here in Coppa, and a very, very happy man to go with it. So then, that's the conclusion of race 1 of the day for Trofeo Pirelli, Pirelli Am and Coppa. But coming up next, we will have more in about an hour's time. Here are the results. Imada ahead of Shibata, Shimayama, Anna Inotsume, Coldmax, Yaneda, Shirasaki, Yamatatsu, Isasaki, and Phil Kim. You see there, Shibata bumped up to 2nd overall as the Coppa winner. Masafumi Hiwatashi in 11th, Tadao Uematsu all the way down in 12th, and that's because, of course, we ended under safety car, but he still scores points for 3rd in class. He will be profiting versus Sotomuto in that all-important Trofeo Pirelli Championship consideration. What a championship prospect we have then across all 3 divisions going into Sunday here in Ferrari Challenge Japan. We'll keep you posted on that on Sunday when we're back with these drivers, but make sure you join us in just under an hour's time when we're back with Coppa Am and the 488 Challenge Evo division as we shake out who will be victorious in those championships, potentially here today with the Saturday race for those 2 classes coming up next at Okayama.